said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
School districts across the country want the kids back. Parents want the kids back. Entire communities want these kids back in school. The data says it's safe for the kids to go back. Everyone wants these kids back in school except the teachers and the unions. Why? What are the teachers so afraid of that literally scares them to death of returning to school full time? And I don't mean this hybrid garbage. I'm talking full time, in person, for all grades, all counties. It's been almost a year since the COVID lockdowns, and since then, 18 children have committed suicide in Clark County, Nevada. The school districts are fighting the unions in Chicago and have demanded that the teachers get back into the classroom now. But despite the cry from literally everyone on planet Earth to give the children their education back, the teachers continue to defy and completely disregard their plea. They blame it on the unions. They blame it on the CDC guidelines. But I'm calling BS on the entire thing because while they're busy crying about the bubonic plague, these very same teachers are out shopping and dining without a mask on. The same teachers who are scared to death of catching the virus from a student and potentially passing it on to the parents are out having drinks at the bar. And let's not forget, the unions work for the teachers. The teachers pay the unions to represent them. So if the teachers really wanted to get back to school, then the unions would be begging for their return. It's complete and utter hypocrisy, and I'm done with it. And in today's show, we're calling them all out. We start today in Chicago, where we listen to the parents discuss their thoughts on President Biden's executive order demanding we reopen schools. Probably the only executive order I actually agree with. Let's over to Chicago and have a listen. So the story behind this, for those of you who aren't aware, in Chicago, the teachers' union are fighting with the school districts. The Chicago Teachers Union said Sunday that its members, remember, the teachers are members of the union. The teachers pay the unions to represent them. The Teachers Union said Saturday that its members voted to defy an order to return to the classroom over concerns about COVID-19, setting up a showdown with district officials who have said that refusing to return when ordered would amount to an illegal strike. Let's take a look at what the parents in Chicago have to say about the madness.
The push to get our kids back in the classroom getting a boost from the new administration as President Biden is set to sign an executive order today to reopen schools. Here to discuss are four parents from around the country. We have Tom Kirsting, we have Kareth Foster, Amy Tarkanian, and Joe Borelli. Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Amy, I'll start with you. What do you think about this? Most of my friends are in favor of it, but yet it's been beneficial for other families who might have a child that doesn't love the social scene and is doing well at home. What are your thoughts?
Well, here in the state of Nevada, we have 17 counties, and each county has taken it upon themselves to have a reopening plan. I'm in northern Nevada, where we have a hybrid situation for most of the schools, which has worked out extremely well for those of who are actually still uneasy about maybe not have taken the vaccine yet. I myself plan on not taking it. My husband does plan on taking it. I would not ask that a teacher would be forced to take it in order to reopen the schools, but I do know it would ease some people's questioning on whether if it's safe or not to send their children back. Our schools have done an excellent job at trying to reopen.
That's great. Kareth, how about you?
I'm in Dallas, as you know, and we're homeschooling. So it's not a particular issue for our family, but I do think that it is critical for the children who do not have the option of homeschooling or have the parents who can be there to help support in the way that they need it. It's always better in person for children to get that attention, but we do need to make sure that everything is safe. The teachers are safe, the students are safe. So if there's a way to ensure that, then we should absolutely go forward.
Tom, I know you're a therapist. You have a private practice. What do you think? What are you seeing?
Well, I also worked in a high school, public high school, for 25 years. So up here in northern New Jersey, similar situation, hybrid situation. In my private practice, I'm dealing with a tremendous amount of kids with anxiety, kids with depression, and so forth. And what I'm worried about is when the kids actually do go back to school, I want them to go back to school as soon as possible. I think it's critically important. But from having worked, under the roof of a school, schools are going to be having to deal with so many kids with school phobia-related issues just from being socially isolated, particularly kids that have some sort of underlying anxiety. So it's not going to be as easy as it sounds when we roll kids back into school, but I do think they need to get there. We got to get them back into some semblance of normality.
Joe, what do you make of the timing of this? Because President Trump was pushing for schools to reopen, for everything to reopen. He said that there were a lot of Democratic governors that wouldn't allow it. I know Bill de Blasio closed our schools, and he got blasted by the parents here, Democrats and Republicans. So what do you make of this timing? Because this is day one for Joe Biden, and now it's okay to open schools?
Yeah, actually, I kind of do find it kind of refreshing. I mean, I'm a New York parent who believes children should be back in schools. I think the science has been on our side since June. So to hear that President Biden's actually going to take on the folks in his own parties. It's been Democratic big city governors, Democratic mayors who have pushed back. It's been the teachers' unions who have pushed back. So if Joe Biden wants to take on those interests on day one, I say get at it.
Yeah, I looked at all of his executive actions and orders, and I was in favor of this one. I am excited because I do want our kids back in school. And I think one of you told our producers, who was it? Joe, it was you. You have a son that's in kindergarten. You were worried about what he's learning if he's just Zooming for an hour a day, because they tell us, when we're pregnant, we're having our babies, those first 5 years are critical for brain development. 80% of their brains develop during that time. And if our kids are only getting an hour on a computer, I do worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, God bless his teachers. They're wonderful. But, he's really only getting a solid hour at best of Wi-Fi teacher. So you worry about the long-term ramifications. Right. What's his standardized testing going to be like down the road?
Right. All of you, thank you so much.
So as we can clearly see here, there's a whole mess of issues that we're getting ourselves into right now by having these kids out of school. Everything from school phobia to anxiety levels going through the roof. As they just said, a school psychiatrist just said it's not as easy as just reacclimating these kids back into school on day one. They've been out of school now for so long that it's not going to be easy to just throw them back into the scene day one. These kids and the psychological damage that is being done, especially the younger kids, aren't going to be able to handle such a pushback the longer that this thing drags on. Kids are suffering anxiety. They're suffering from school phobia. They're suffering from so many issues right now. And as they just clearly said, the science is on their side. The science is on their side. Fauci has even said it's time to go back to school. So why are these teachers so scared? Why do they feel like their coronavirus situation is a million times worse off than anyone else who works in the public, healthcare sectors, or out in the public every day? Why do teachers feel that they are any different than any other of us that continue to go out and are exposed to this virus? After all, teachers have been seen shopping, they've been seen at the bar, they've been seen out with their family members. It's almost as if they're happy to participate in normal society and be out there amongst the public, except when it comes to being in school. Let's break down the article even further and see what Fox News and the student unions or the teacher unions have to say. So the union said the district safety plan falls short, and that before teachers can return safely to school, vaccinations would have to be more widespread and different metrics to measure infections would need to be in place. So here we are, more testing, more vaccinations. How about the fact that not every teacher wants to get vaccinated? How about the fact that so many adults and 1/3 of the country doesn't even want to get vaccinated. What's their excuse going to be then? After we all return to normal, 1/3 of the country isn't even vaccinated. 1/3 of the teachers don't want to get vaccinated, but they want to get back to school. Kids want to get back to school. Their parents do not want them vaccinated. What are we going to do then? Homeschool for the rest of our lives? We're not going to let kids go back to school. They've never needed the flu vaccine. Why do they need the coronavirus vaccine? After all, this is just a glorified, a little bit more contagious and a bit more deadlier situation than the flu. But let's not forget the fact that this virus still has a survival rate, 99.6% survival rate, especially as of late, as fatalities continue to decline. And we are told, follow the science. We're always told, follow the science. We've been following the science. It's almost like everybody wants to follow the science except for Democratic healthcare officials. They're the only ones who don't seem to want to follow the science. Parents are getting frustrated. They are getting furious with how long this situation has gone on. They're getting furious with the government overreach in these Democratic-run counties. Other countries are open. Other states are open. Kids are in school full time. It's only the Democratic-run cities that seem to be shut down. I don't hear many schools down in Texas locked down. Does coronavirus not strike as hard and as fierce in Republican-run states as it does Democratic-run states? Does Texas not care about their children as much as New York cares about their children? What is it about the difference here? Because it's very confusing to us parents who are trying to understand why half the country feels like they should be concerned and the other half is getting on with their life as normal. So the unions are constantly in the way. Chicago Public Schools, which is the nation's 3rd largest district, wanted roughly 100 or 10,000 kindergarten through 8th grade teachers and other staffers to return. So the school districts even want their kids to return. They're saying, could we please get back to school now? The science says it's okay. They want their 10,000 kindergartners through 8th grade teachers and other staffers to return Monday to get ready to welcome back roughly 70,000 students. And we're only talking part-time here. We're not even talking full-time. And these teachers are having such a problem. If the teachers at this point, we've looked at the science, and the risk isn't as high as they originally thought. It's just that simple. The risk is not as high. That's the only thing we need to concern ourselves with. That the risk amongst children is extremely low, and the risk of a child passing it on to a teacher where the teacher actually results in death from COVID is also extremely low to non-existent across the entire country. Teachers aren't listening to the parents. Why are the teachers and the unions, why do they think it's acceptable to have a little fear-mongering episode amongst each other and completely disregard what the parents have to say, to completely disregard what the children have to say, to leave they're not even listening to us anymore. They've left the groups. Most of them have unfriended me because they don't want to hear it anymore. They're just not willing to listen. For teachers, you'd think they would be open-minded, accepting, willing to understand both sides. They're teachers, after all. You'd think they would follow the science more than the fear-mongering media and unions. But they continue to disregard everything except for what the unions tell them to say. And let's be honest. What do they think is going to happen during the next teacher-parent conference? I mean, the resentment right now is so bad towards the teacher community. I mean, there's outrage right now. Parents are furious. What do they think is going to happen when we have that first parent-teacher conference? How do they think that's going to go down? Do they purposely want years of resentment moving forward? Because we are almost so far past the point of return right now that if they don't get these kids back in school right now, there's going to be years of resentment, years of backlash. Parents, seniors in high school have missed the last and best year of their life. They're not going to forget this the next time they're asked to vote for a budget increase. How many of us are actually going to care about the district's budgets? when we were put on the back burner for so long. Like anybody's going to vote yes. Why would we do that? Budget votes. Very important to these school districts. You'd think they'd want to be on the side of the parents. We're not working together here. Notice how when it comes time to vote for a budget increase, we're asked to work with the districts. We're asked to put the district's mind and interest first. Do it for the kids. We do, and usually I tick the box yes. But now we're in a situation where the tables are reversed, and we're asking the teachers to please consider the parents' needs. But they throw the unions in our face. They continue to throw CDC guidelines in our face. They continue to hide behind the unions who they claim are calling the shots, which they aren't, because we all know that the teachers hire the unions. The teachers are essentially the boss of the unions. They are asking the unions to represent them. So the real ones calling the shots here are the teachers. And I don't mean to shame every single teacher. I know there's a handful out there busting their butt day and night to get back into school full time. And I applaud you. I thank you guys. You're actually out there protesting with the parents. But so many of you who claim that you care about the children and claim that you're just as upset as we are, I don't buy it, because actions speak louder than words. How many protests have you attended? How many letters to Albany have you written? How many times have you marched into the admin or written a letter to your superintendent demanding that these kids get back to school? Have you voiced your concern? I'm guessing a tremendous amount of them across all districts, across all states that have locked these kids down, have not done that. If kids aren't in class, these states don't provide federal funding. The states need their funding. That is why teachers beg parents to sign them on every day. Please sign our kids online. Well, what does it matter? It matters because if the states don't see these kids signing online, it technically means they're not in school, which means the school loses their funding. So the more parents that pull these kids out of school and homeschool them, the more these schools are going to start losing their funding. And when they lose their funding, guess what happens? Teachers start to get cut. I don't feel like the teachers really understand the full extent of what's happening here and just how bad this situation is going to be if we don't get back to the old normal ASAP. Unemployment's at an all-time high. Let's be honest. There are plenty of people out there who will gladly, younger kids, college graduates, gladly take these jobs. They need jobs. They're more than willing to get back tomorrow. And if you're really, really that scared, why don't you put on 3 masks? Why don't you put up a plexiglass barrier? Let the kids be normal. Let the kids go play. You're the one who's worried about catching coronavirus. You do what you need to do. Put on a hazmat suit for all I care. But let's get back to class. Do what you got to do to protect yourself. You get the vaccine. Don't expect every single kid to get the vaccine. Don't expect your colleagues to get the vaccine. It's none of your business what they do. You take care of you. Let the rest of the world get on with their lives. Let's go back to the keyboard warrior cam and see what the American parents have to say about Chicago and other districts in the world define the fact that these school districts want to get back to school, but the teachers and the unions keep voting no. Anthony says, time to get back to work. Enough is enough. This virus has a 99.8% survival rate. If you're scared, by all means, stay home. The rest of us want normalcy. It's a great starting comment. I couldn't agree more. Angela says, well, many other states and large cities, now teachers have been back for months. Exactly what we just said. Across the country. Are you asking teachers, are you asking other states, hey, how are you guys getting on with being in school full time? What's going on over there? Have you really seen an increase in fatalities? Are you asking the questions? I feel like they're not. I feel like they don't want to know the answer to those questions. So Many other states and large cities now, teachers have been back for months. Sounds like they don't want to get paid, as they were told they won't. So, again, Angela's referring to Chicago. The school districts are saying, listen, enough. You don't get back to school, you're not getting paid. And if they continue to now stay home, it'll be considered an illegal strike. Thank God we have a few cities in the country who are stepping up. A few school districts who are actually stepping up and backing the parents who pay the taxes for your salaries. Also, makes me question how much they truly care about these children. There's so much evidence now how damaging online schooling is for kids. So much damage. This online schooling thing, I'm sorry, but it is complete and utter garbage. It's not learning. Any teacher knows that. They went to school. All these teachers have master's degrees now, and a lot of them studied psychology. They well know that these online classes are rubbish for these children. There's so much evidence now how damaging online schooling is for the kids. The rise in suicide for our children has gotten so high. Younger, healthier teachers need to go back. And this is what I was just saying a minute ago. Listen, I'm sorry. It's been long enough. If you don't want to go back to school, quit. If this isn't for you, go find another job. There are plenty of jobs out there that you can stay home and make money. It is 2021 after all. The internet provides millions of opportunities. That's the direction the world's headed anyway, but not the public school system. School is for children to be in school. Teachers need to be in class, teaching. This is how kids learn. We have not cracked a different model yet. And we're sure as hell not going to be forced to crack one right now with absolutely no preparation or lead time up to remote learning. It does not work for school-age children. They don't have the mental capacity to be able to focus like adults can for 8 hours stuck behind a computer all day. The rise in suicide for our children has gotten so high, younger, healthier teachers need to go back. As I said in the beginning of the show, 18 children in Clark County, Nevada have committed suicide since the lockdown. They've had enough. They are going back. They are sick of it. Murray says, I feel so sorry for all these children. They deserve an in-person education. We've been open 5 days a week for elementary with a lot of restrictions, but no spread in the school since September. 5 days a week, elementary with a lot of restrictions, but no spread. So why aren't we back? Why can we not get these kids back? Private schools open, and this is why I have a big problem with the public school system still charging us schools tax. Because now that our kids are out of school, we need to put money for those of us who are so furious right now and want our kids in private school because we're done with the public school system. We need that money. We need that money to put into private schooling right now because we are being forced to put them in a private school. Before we weren't being forced. Okay, I understand that even if I send my kids to private school, that yes, I still need to pay my school taxes in the district I live, as well as private education. But that's my choice. I choose to do that. I don't have a choice now. These parents, at least where I'm from in upstate New York, do not have a choice. So if I don't have a choice anymore, if you've restricted my freedom to go to public school, then I should not have to owe school taxes. I should be able to take that money and put it towards a private education because you have literally prevented me from going to public school. Therefore, I should be able to prevent you from getting your school taxes. Tina says, I'm sorry, but my district has been in person the entire school year and we have had a very few cases in the district in a county where there have been many cases daily. With the right precautions, you can safely return. The kids are masked, wash hands constantly, and clean their desks after eating, just like restaurants do. You have to remember, how many people go through the restaurants every day? How many people go through a bar every day? What do? They spray down the bar. They spray down the table. They wipe it down. They kill the virus. Off you go. And they do it for 10, 20, 30 tables. So if waiters and waitresses can keep up cleaning down the bars, cleaning down these tables in between patrons, then I don't think it's too much to ask that teachers are able to do a quick wipe down of the desks. Heck, get the kids to wipe it down if they're old enough. The kids are masked, wash hands constantly, and clean their desks after eating. Going back in person is not only doable, it's imperative. It has been much easier to teach my students and help those who are struggling while they have been in person. I don't ever want to go back online like we did last spring. These are parents from all over the country, by the way. So no matter where you are right now, these are testimonials from parents all over the country saying, and teachers saying, we're back. Cases aren't rising. It's safe. Mask up. Get your injection if you want to. Kara says, fire them and hire new ones. All other frontline people had to work through all this. Healthcare workers, first responders, all working. Coming in very close contact with COVID patients, including family members of mine. They don't mind getting food at the grocery store, meaning these teachers. So the teachers don't mind getting food at the grocery store to feed their faces. I guess it's okay to put those people at risk, but not teachers. What about the truckers who had to deliver all the stuff we needed? Enough of this crap already. Get back to work or get out of the way and let someone who wants to work get paid. Our kids deserve better. Let's head over to Twitter and see what one angry and very furious parent has to say about his experience. He says, figure it out or get off the podium, because you know what? There are people like me and a line of people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out. He's referring to the school board. So a Virginia dad boils over in frustration against school shutdown at a board meeting. It's caught on camera. Let's take a look.
Yep. You should all be fired from your day jobs, because if your employers knew that you were more inefficient than the DMV, you would be replaced in a heartbeat. I literally just finished a conference call because I'm having to multitask to be here to address you guys. You're a bunch of cowards hiding behind our children as an excuse for keeping schools closed. You think you're some sort of martyrs because of the decisions you're making, when the statistics do not lie that the vast majority of the population is not at risk from this virus. The garbage workers who pick up my freaking trash risk their lives every day more than anyone in this school system. Figure it out or get off the podium, because you know what? There are people like me and a line of other people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out. It's not a high bar. Raise the freaking bar.
So he's clearly frustrated beyond belief.
I'm going to give staff an opportunity to make sure that the podium and
He's raised his concerns. He's furious with what's been going on.
Sir, your time is finished.
And he clearly lost his cool, understandably. He's lost it. And you continue to hear him losing it. This is what's going on right now with parents. They're at their wits' end. They have lost it. They're completely at their wits' end right now. They're furious with what's going on. And they've had enough. Talking about how his garbage men come in contact with trash every single day. Why can't teachers go back and teach schools? Parents are at breaking point. These kids are at breaking point right now. The parents, unlike the teachers, are actually at risk of losing their jobs because they can't perform. But the teachers don't care because they continue to get paid. How many teachers do we think would actually be back in school right now if they weren't getting paid? If we froze all of their salaries, how quickly do you think they'd have a change in tune? Do you still think they'd be singing from the same hymn sheet? Do you think they'd still be taking direction from the unions? Do you think they'd be listening to them if they didn't get paid? Let's head over back to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and we'll see what the American people have to say about this Virginia dad losing his cool, understandably, to the board in Virginia. Adriana says, tell all teachers to get back to work. Millions of people go to work every day since day one of the pandemic and have young people at jobs. People who live with children and grandchildren are, and the risk is always present. It's a very good point. People who live with children and grandchildren, and the risk is always present. Get over yourselves. If you don't like your cushy, high-paying, great benefits, paid holidays, summer off, jobs, quit. By the way, maybe people in retail shouldn't serve you and your kids for the same reason. It's a great point. These are parents from all over the country. We're not singling out any one community here. Chicago. We've heard from people from Chicago, New Jersey, New York, Nevada, Virginia, all over the country. Parents are furious. They're furious because enough's enough. This has gone on almost a year now. The science doesn't support it. Dr. Fauci doesn't support it. Psychiatrists, therapists, they don't support it. Coaches, school districts don't even support it. So why can't the unions get on board? Why are we making the guidelines so obnoxiously strict that it's almost impossible for teachers to go back? Something's got to give here. Naomi says, I live in Virginia, and they keep moving the dates back on us. First, it was we need to follow the science. And then when the science said that kids aren't the super spreaders, they said we need the teachers to be vaccinated. Now that the teachers are being labeled as essential workers and 90% have gotten the vaccine, but now in order to open the schools, they want the kids vaccinated too. This is highway robbery. They are holding our children hostage. It's inhumane. It's not fair. This is a new vaccine. This is not like the other vaccines that have been around for decades. This is a new vaccine. It was rushed. People are nervous. They are scared. They don't want anything to do with it, at least right now. Maybe a couple of years later, they'll get the vaccine. Just one problem. There's no pediatric dose of the COVID vaccine. Okay, that's a very good point. So there is no vaccine for children. The school board serves at the mercy of the teachers' unions, and petitions for recall elections are already being circulated to get the kids back to school. So what she's saying is here, they're having recall elections for the school board. They're furious. They want the school board out. After all, the school board is the one running the show here. They could stand up to the unions. They could stand up to the health officials, but they're not. They can't keep hiding. In Monroe County in upstate New York, 14 lawsuits have been served to the school districts and to the healthcare officials. Suddenly now, the very same health officials are saying, you know what? Maybe it is time to go back. Maybe it is safe to go back. Why don't we start considering going back? Yeah, because they've just been sued. And they're now scared for both their livelihoods and their jobs. So Naomi says the school board serves at the mercy of the teachers' unions, and petitions for recall elections already being circulated to get the kids back in school. The teachers are doing an awesome job in a really sucky situation. But when the teachers' unions are calling for more time away from the class while teachers want to go back and student suicide and failure rates are skyrocketing, you have to wonder who the unions are really representing. I'm so confused by the union situation here. Because from my understanding, the unions work for the teachers. You pay to belong to a union so the union can represent you. Why are the unions calling the shots here? Who are the unions afraid of? Cuomo? De Blasio? Mendoza? Why do the unions have to answer to any of these guys? They're supposed to be fighting for the teachers. They're supposed to be fighting back against the likes of Cuomo, de Blasio, Mendoza. They're supposed to be fighting for the teachers. The problem is the teachers aren't the ones who want to go back to school. It's very clear. If they wanted to go back to school, the unions would be fighting for the teachers to go back to school. But they're not. So the whole thing is very hypocritical. And I'm done listening to the excuses. The parents are done listening to all of these excuses. Actions speak louder than words. If the teachers wanted to go back, they would have already been back. They would have told the unions, get us back. We'd see teachers out there protesting to go back. But we see exactly the opposite. We see them protesting to stay home. Julie says our Ohio school has been open since August, but it's not statewide. Our school system has some difficulty having enough substitute teachers for those out on quarantine or with COVID. They've managed to have in-class school 5 days per week with an option for those who want to do e-learning to do so. That's a great compromise. Listen, parents, if you're one of the few that are actually nervous about sending your kid into school with coronavirus, that's fine. Homeschool your kids. The district should give you an option to do e-learning. But the very few who don't want to go back does not represent the greater mass of us who actually want kids to be in school. We should go back to the old normal. If schools want to set up an e-learning program where certain parents can opt in for that, then that's fine. If school districts can't handle that, splitting it up, then those parents need to make a decision to homeschool. We need to get back to the old normal where it was kids go to school in person. And if you don't like that, homeschool your kids. Very few have actually opted for the e-learning situation. So it just goes to show a lot of parents want their kids back into school. This is in Ohio, remember. They have also changed the protocol in Ohio that if a student tests positive, they will not quarantine other students who were near them in a classroom as long as they had masks on. That's great. Contact tracing showed students were not getting from each other at school. If Virginia's school systems wanted to have class in person, they would make that happen. COVID has made people lazy. It's too easy to cancel, postpone, or go virtual instead of problem solving a way to get these kids back in school. It's nice to be able to stay home every day with your parents. It's nice to be able to teach from the comfort of your own home. But the school systems were not set up that way. They were not set up for remote learning. We are not that advanced yet. Universities aren't. High schools aren't. Elementary schools aren't. The school and the education system is not ready to go online. Not to mention, look at the inner city school districts. They've been out of school the whole time. Rochester, New York, kids have been home. These people, a lot of them, sadly, don't have the internet connection needed. They are falling behind. We are now creating a further divide amongst the different classes throughout the city. Some are excelling in certain districts because they have the money to be able to handle homeschooling, while others are falling further behind. These kids are not getting an equal and fair education. All I hear out of the Biden administration is equity. It's not even equality anymore. It's equity. Equity means we are going to treat everybody the same. We're going to give everybody an equal amount of equity, an equal fair chance in life. Well, when it comes to schools in Democratic-run states, these kids are getting anything but equity. This is the very definition or the very opposite of equity. These kids are failing in certain areas and thriving in others, all because of their social status. And it's not fair. It's destroying families. It's ruining lives, all for a virus with a 99.6% survival rate. These teachers need to start fighting. If you seriously want these kids back in school, you need to start fighting. You need to do more than just try to convince us that you really want to be back. You need to tell your unions it's time to go back to school. Because soon we're not going to be asking. We're going to be telling you it's time to go back. And if that doesn't work, we're going to start voting no on every budget cut. We're going to start not paying our school taxes because we don't feel that we're getting our money's worth. And when your jobs are hit and you're out of a job, don't come crying back to us. We've warned you for months that it's time to go back. The science has warned you it's okay to go back. If you continue to disregard our cry for normalcy, if you discontinue to ignore the cry based on the data and the science, then that's on you. We can only scream and yell so much before we've had enough. and start taking matter into our own hands. Thank you so much for joining me today. You've been watching You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Every day at 3 o'clock. We will see you guys tomorrow, same time, right here in the studio. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.